Coming up on today's show.
If you are a person who feels like you hang on to things longer than you want to, or your environment, your house is more cluttered than you want it to be, it turns out there's a lot of brain science involved in that.
I mean, the brain is so complex, and I think, the reason that we have this sleep is it's just kind of like fueling your tank. Right? And the same way with, physically eating too. I mean,
people say to me, oh, that can go in the basement in the storage space. That can go in the basement. And they'll say that over and over again until I say to them, look, you only have an 8-foot wide shelf. And you've given me more things than I can fit on that 8-foot wide shelf. So
lose 30 pounds in 30 minutes today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we're going to help you lose 30 pounds in 30 minutes. Now, you do not need a doctor's note for that, but you do need to listen because we have Darla DeMoro from Heart Work Organizing on, heartworkorg.com. Darla, how are you doing today?
Hi, John. I'm great. Thanks.
And where are you located in the United States?
I'm just outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. That's great. Well, now we teased people. We didn't give them the subtitle of the podcast, which is Strategies to Let Go. So we're not talking about weight loss here. We're not going to do anything dangerous that's going to harm anybody's health, but it's going to actually probably help their health because they're going to feel better after they get rid of all this stuff. Is that right?
I work with a lot of people that that get stuck, and they really get stuck with the emotional side of letting go. And I want to help people with some very clear strategies on how to let go gently and in a way that feels good for them so that they can declutter.
All right. Well, we'd use the word strategies, which is big picture. Then, of course, there's tactics, which are the actual step-by-step things we've got to do. Let's talk about the what causes people in the first place to just keep too much stuff?
I think it's so interesting that with the technology in the healthcare field, with MRIs and the research that's being done on brain science, that we are actually finding out so much more now about how people make decisions and why people keep things or are easily able to get rid of things. And the first thing I want to say is if you are a person who feels like you hang on to things longer than you want to, or your environment, your house is more cluttered than you want it to be, it turns out there's a lot of brain science involved in that. And so your physiology plays into it. It's not necessarily a character fault. So I don't want people to feel bad or feel like they're just not good at organizing. It may not be the thing that you love the most. It may not be something that you feel you're great at. But just like any muscle that we have in our body, we can actually get better at organizing if that's a priority for you. And it's not a priority for everybody.
Right. Yeah. Some people just don't want to deal with it. But for those who do, let's start and think about what are the ways that we do this. Give us some rock solid tips that we can take to the bank.
Okay. I'm going to start with something so easy and so basic. Everybody's going to say, yeah, I thought I knew that. But really it comes down to brain science again. And it turns out that the more healthy we are, the better we are at getting sleep, the better we are at getting good nutrition, the better we are at staying hydrated during our day, we actually make better decisions. So if you find that you're having trouble deciding whether something should stay or go, whether you can actually deal with parting with something out of your household, you're going to have a better chance of making a rational and good decision on a day when you've had a good meal, when you've exercised, or when you're feeling healthy. When you're feeling crappy, right, you're not going to make such great decisions.
Yeah, the brain is so complex, and I think, the reason that we have this sleep is it's just kind of like fueling your tank.
Yes.
Right? And the same way with, physically eating too. I mean, it really makes you function better. So I think that's a great thing. That's a great practical tip for doing that.
Right. Yeah, we talk a lot about those kinds of strategies with ADD clients and folks who know that they're ADD or think they might be. But really, it applies to everybody. I mean, I'm sure you and I can both pinpoint days and maybe even the last week when we didn't get as much sleep as we wanted. I know that I feel better on a day when I work out. It's not about weight loss. It's about getting the brain working and getting the body working, because the brain is part of the body. So everybody thinks, yeah, I need to take better care of myself. But that the ability to take care of yourself really rolls right into being able to reach your goals and organize the home that you really want to live in.
Well, Albert Einstein talked about taking these little power naps. Did you believe that, like, if someone just doesn't feel like they're in the mood for it, that maybe they just take either a 30-minute nap or a little walk around the block or whatever? Do you think that can help them get in the right zone?
Absolutely, yeah. Just getting up for 10 minutes and changing your position, going to, going outside, getting some fresh air. I know myself, if I go for an apple for a snack instead of a handful of candy, I'm going to perform better for the next hour. So
unless they're M&Ms, those actually really do help you. I can attest to that.
If you need that instant fuel, go for it. But long term, it's not a great strategy. No. So that's really kind of the baseline. But then there are other strategies that we can tap onto the top of that so that you can be more successful in in letting go, if that's what you're trying to do. Because, some people really have, getting back to the brain chemistry and the body chemistry, some people really have a visceral reaction, and they get really like shaky and nervous when we say, okay, we're gonna take some things out so we can make space, because that's what you told me you want to do, and they just get really anxious about that. And that's a brain body reaction again. So that's not made up. Mm-hmm. So what I want to give people now are some really common and they're strategies that professional organizers and people who are successful use over and over again. There's about a dozen strategies we could talk about, but not one is going to be perfect for every person or every situation. So it's easy things like, if you say that you want to declutter, or use a room in a certain way, or even, you can see behind me I have a bookcase. If I say I want to use that bookcase in a certain way and I want to store certain things there, you can literally just measure out the space. Do I have enough space for the number of things or the amount of things that I want to store in there? And that's, again, it's real basic, but I call it the 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound sugar bag problem. Mm-hmm. If you have too much stuff for the allotted space, it might be more of a challenge.
Now, do you take, when you figure out, I don't have enough space, then you try to prioritize, or what's the next step with that?
Right. So some people, in the abstract say all of these books, for example. Books are a great example because everybody gets attached to them at some point. But if we say, I have 10 feet of books, left to right, but I only have a 5-foot bookcase, then we need to make decisions. And it helps to be able to say, I only have this much space, so let's start picking our favorites and putting them in the space, and the other ones just are not going to fit, so we need to have a plan B for those.
Now, do you literally take the books and put them on the floor and take a tape measure out and say, okay, here's how many books, and then measure the shelf as well?
Yeah, sometimes we do that. We do that a lot in storage spaces. People say to me, oh, that can go in the basement, in the storage space. That can go in the basement. And they'll say that over and over again until I say to them, look, you only have an 8-foot wide shelf. And you've given me more things than I can fit on that 8-foot wide shelf. So not everybody has the same familiarity and reality about how much space is available and how much can fit on a shelf or in a room. If it's something that is relatively low price, low cost, is it something that really is worth you keeping for 20 years? Or is it something that it's easy enough and inexpensive enough to replace if you end up needing it? I brought a little prop with me today. This is Melon Baller. Does anybody recognize
Oh,
it?
yeah,
Do you have
yes.
some?
And for those who are listening on the podcast too, it looks like a little miniature ice cream scooper, right?
It does, right. And
Yeah.
this is something that you scoop melon balls out with from
Yeah.
cantaloupe and honeydew. Right. I keep this around now as an organizing prop because this is something that I had taking up space in my kitchen drawer. I have not used this since the very first time I bought it, and it's been at least 15 years. And my lifestyle just doesn't lend itself to this. I probably got this at the dollar store. So over 15 years, was it worth keeping this dollar item in my very highly used, small kitchen drawer? Probably not. So, everybody's got something like that.
I thought what you're going to do is going to use that's some new organizing tool that you're going to show like how to measure or something. But no,
Well,
that's a great example. And I think we all probably have a something like that in our drawers.
right. Something that's easily replaced and inexpensive, but we're hanging on to it because we might need it someday. So when you hear yourself say that, but what if I need it later? Then sort of run through that. Okay, is it easily replaced? Is it, valuable to me? Is it one of a kind? Or can I afford to get another one in a few years if I do need it? Or can I borrow one?
Great. Well, hold on. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, I want to get into more of these tips on how to lose the 30 pounds of stuff in 30 minutes, not weight, but and we've got some great strategies going. So we're with Darla DeMauro from Heartwork Organizing, and we'll be right back. Are you looking to get your office organized but don't know where to start? And what can you really do to keep your office organized? Smead has put together a new ebook to help you answer these exact questions. We've compiled the best tips from professional organizers around the country to help you tackle the most common office organizing challenges. Go to smead.com/office organization and get your free copy today. That's smead.com/office organization. The new organization for the office ebook from Smead, keeping you organized. We are back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about how to get rid of stuff, how to lose 30 pounds in 30 minutes. Now we're kind of halfway through this podcast. We should have at least half of that gone by now, and we had some great tips there. You also write a blog and have tips posted as well on your website. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I put out a couple of articles a week because I'm working with clients every week, and we have great things come up in our sessions, and I want to share that out on the blog. So, one of the things that I documented a while ago on the blog is another strategy that people can use. People often have trouble decluttering because they look at something that they either paid a lot of money for or relatively a lot of money for, or they think maybe has appreciated since they bought it, or it was passed down to them and they think, oh, it could be valuable, right? It came from grandma's house. I don't know, it could be valuable. And so they get caught up in whether or not they're going to keep it, even if they don't like it. And so, the old strategies of donating items to charitable donations, and then of course you can take the tax deduction, and at the end of the year that ends up being cash in your pocket. So it's not just a donation, it's actually value that's going out the door and coming back in your taxes. The alternative to that, a lot of people think, oh, well, eBay's out there, I can sell something for a lot of money because this thing might be valuable. Well, because of eBay and all these auction sites that are out there now, things that have been valuable in the past that were collectibles are maybe not so valuable because they are widely available. So on my website, I have an article that has helped a lot of people, and it's called The Economics of Purging. And I actually went to a consignment sale myself. I took a lot of my kids' things and I detailed out line by line how much they were worth, how much I, originally spent for them, how much I put them in the consignment sale for, how much money I got back from the consignment sale. And then I compared that against what I would have gotten back on my taxes and how much time I would not have spent getting ready for the consignment sale and all the supplies that I put in. And I compared the two, and they came out, in this particular case, they came out exactly the same. So I would have gotten, exactly the same amount of money back in my pocket and would not have spent all the time that I spent getting ready for the consignment sale. The eBay equivalent is taking the time to list something, taking the time to take the pictures, getting it out in the mail when it does sell, if it does sell. So those are all things that you have to weigh when you're standing there in your home holding something in your hand saying, I think it might be valuable. Do your research, go to the public auction sites and see if something has enough value for you to spend time preparing it for sale and doing all of that, or if maybe donating it might actually be the higher value solution for you.
Wow. Well, we will definitely link to that article in our show notes as well. So well, let's move on and get a couple more tips and strategies in here before we're done on how to declutter, how to get rid of stuff, how to really let go.
Right. So one of the ways that we have available to us now that we didn't have 10 years ago, we can digitize things. We can take papers and family photos and all sorts of things, really. Even 3D items. You can take a picture of somebody important holding an important item, and so you link the person with the item, and then you can share. The great thing about that is not only that it takes up less space, but now you can have a picture that you can share out with a lot of people, and so you're not the only one in the family with that really important item that grandma used to have on her mantle. Similarly, we can repurpose items into a completely different thing that you can use. So an example of that is if you're a runner, a lot of people do 5K runs and, they get a t-shirt and they all have memories. Maybe it was something they trained really hard for, a marathon. So I have a colleague who takes those race t-shirts, college shirts or camp shirts, and cuts the logos out, just a little square, and makes memory blankets out of them.
Oh,
so instead of a whole drawer of t-shirts that you're never wearing, you can have a really pretty memory blanket that you can actually use. And it holds all the same memories, but in a much more functional way.
Yeah, and that actually takes a lot of footage, or square footage or whatever down. I mean, think of a t-shirt going down to just a little patch.
Yeah.
I think we all have those.
It could take up a whole drawer, and who has drawers to spare? I don't.
Right. Well, and you don't want to lose that memory. I think just on the point before there about taking a picture, even a great picture of you at that event, holding up your trophy or whatever it is,
yes.
And having that available is because it's really about the memory. It's not about the T-shirt or the medal, probably.
Exactly. And the very often the thing is going to decay, whether it's a T-shirt, those will eventually get washed enough you can't wear them, or they'll get faded. So taking a picture before it decays is actually a great way to preserve it. Okay. Yeah, so some of the other things that you can do, if you're really having trouble getting started or, getting decluttered in your home, is just really get started. A lot of people, and I know that you've heard this before, John, from so many of my colleagues, but people say, oh, I'm so bad at organizing, I'm just not great at it. Well, they've never actually started. The whole idea is so overwhelming. But if you just say, I'm just going to declutter this one little area. I'm just going to declutter the nightstand or part of my desk or one little drawer. Once you get started, you realize you don't have to declutter your entire house in a day. Nobody does. That's impossible. So just getting started can really get you over the hump, and then you see that you can make decision after decision after decision, and decluttering becomes a reasonable process then.
My wife uses that trick on me for washing windows because we have 40 windows in our house, and it's like, oh, this is going to take like all day. No, we're just going to do a couple windows a day, knowing that once you get a couple going, well, let's just do a couple more, and then you end up spending all day washing the windows.
Right, but you've only done a couple at a time, and that's not as torturous as doing 40 windows. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, we're about time here. Out of time here. I want to talk a little bit about your practice, what kind of customers you deal with. Do you do local only? Do you do virtual? And how people can get a hold of you?
Great, thanks. So people can get a hold of me at my website at heartworkorg.com, and I'm all over social media at Facebook and Twitter, and even Google Plus, Pinterest, and I do work hands-on with people in the Philadelphia region, all 5 counties that surround Philadelphia. And I also work virtually. I have Google Helpouts, which is a very similar to what you and I, John, are doing right now. It's a one-to-one video connection where somebody can use their smartphone or their laptop to walk me around their house, and I can actually see what's going on in their home and give them personalized attention and personalized support for their particular project that they're working on. I also teach classes both here in the Philadelphia area and nationwide.
Awesome. Well, these are some great tips. I already feel a little lighter, not necessarily weight, but that I'm going to be able to get rid of stuff. And we'll have you back on another show to do some more tips and maybe lose another 30 pounds on our way to becoming the biggest loser, I guess. But anyway, Darla DeMauro, Heart Work Organizing, heartworkorg.com. Now go lose some poundage of stuff. And we'll see you next time on Keeping You Organized. Coming up next time on Keeping You Organized.
Having an organized closet is just one space that just makes me so happy, and only I get in there. You know, this isn't public space that the family can make disorganized. I totally control that space.